Hey, campfire crew, let's get it on.
Won't I kill you? I'll kill you! I'll send you to hell! Oh, I'll send you on to hell! I'll send you to hell!
Unsettling Uber Ride by High to a Record. About a week ago, I was at a store and ordered an Uber to take me back to my mom's house. The ride is about 30 or 45 minutes, and although there are some rural areas in between, I can think of several different ways to make the ride, all on main, well-trafficked roads. I've made the drive myself many times. I'm a 27-year-old female, and the driver I got was probably in his 50s or 60s, very nice and talkative, asking what I did for work and where I was going, what I was doing for the holidays, etc. After about 10 minutes, I put my headphones in, and that ended the conversation. I did notice he was going a different way than I normally went, and after about another 10 minutes, I noticed that we were driving on an extremely rural and long road. I pulled it up on the Uber map, and it was very off-route. We were still driving on this one-way road for like 3 minutes, and there were only a couple of houses, no cars, some horses, but definitely no people. At that point, I was sitting up more alert and had taken my headphones out. The driver wasn't saying anything. I was watching us drive down this little paved road on the map and noticed that up ahead, it appeared to be a dead end. At that point, I was getting nervous, but I was hoping that he would come to the dead end, turn around, and we could get back en route. Well, at the end of that road, he made a right onto what appeared to be a fucking dirt driveway. So I was like, why are we pulling in here? And he made some excuse about how his GPS routed him that way. I said, I really don't like this. Can we get back on the main road? And he just said, oh, yeah, the main road is just up here. And he continued driving down this dirt road behind people's houses in the woods. Like, literally, it was an ATV trail, and he was driving between trees in his sedan. At that point, I was literally about to just jump out of the car. I was so scared. I also had my phone in my hand about to call someone, and he was literally not saying anything. Just driving with his hands on the wheel, not looking back at me, just driving like he'd been on this little dirt path 100 times. And I knew he had been, because this was not even a road that showed up on my map. And again, it was behind houses, in the woods. You'd only know that road was there if you'd been there before. So he kept driving, and I kept telling him we needed to get back to the road. And he just kept saying, we will. After probably a full 3 minutes of being like, oh, I'm surprised the GPS took me that way. They ought to change that. That was so strange. It just seemed like a private road. I didn't believe a word he was saying. He purposefully took that trail, because if he didn't already know it was there, he would have assumed it was a driveway and not turned into it like I assumed. That left me wondering, what were his intentions? I still had another 15 or so minutes in the car with that guy, and I literally sat with my hand on the door handle the whole time. He tried to talk to me a few more times, but I wanted no part of that ride anymore. I know for a fact his GPS did not take him that way, because my GPS did not even register it as a road. My only hope is that he figured he would just use it as a shortcut, although it did make the trip longer. And maybe he overlooked how creepy the whole situation came off. What do you guys think? Anyone else thought they were about to be kidnapped while in an Uber? The Summer That Traumatized Me by Monk877. I'd like to talk about this experience since I haven't told many people in hopes that I can get better. I genuinely believe I have some sort of PTSD due to this event. My friend group and I really liked exploring and doing urbex. We'd gone on camping trips, long hikes, and challenges where we had to follow a straight line. We enjoyed a lot of what the world had to offer, but we wanted to eventually go to buildings that were worn down and looked abandoned to experience something different. First, we started off going to a worn-down farmer's shed out in the middle of a field, and then to places that were open during certain points of the year, and we eventually found our first big adventure. It was an old paper mill that was being partially restored, but around 85% of it was still untouched, and was not being visited by any workers. We had run-ins with the homeless there, but it was still a fun experience due to the large expanse of the structure. Eventually, we explored every nook and cranny, so we started looking for other places to explore, until we found what looked to be a carved scrapyard or factory. It had a central courtyard that held cars that were in various states of disarray. As we looked around, we started noticing how put together some items were, and there was a newly parked truck in the courtyard due to the absence of dust. This should have been our sign. We kept looking around until we found a strangely furnished portion of the building where it had actual walls and wood veneer coating every surface. It seemed very out of place as the building surrounding it was very run down and was largely exposed to the elements. In this portion of the building, there were 3 doors and a short hallway connecting them, and there were dusty boots sitting in the hallway similar to the entrance to a house. Of the 3 doors, one had a peephole and one had a large frosted pane in it. We attempted to open the doors, and one opened, and it was the plain door, and it seemed to be a storage room for old chairs. The other doors we couldn't open. We explored a little more and eventually left. Around a month later, we revisited the place with a small group, just me and 2 others. We spent around an hour exploring and moving around until we happened across the same strange doors, and we decided to try opening them again. This time, the frosted glass door opened, and we walked in. It smelled like someone who wore strong cologne was in the room. We were just in there talking when we heard a loud bang come through the wall in the room with the peephole. We all froze in the doorway until the peephole door swung open. As far as we knew, there were 2 ways to exit from there, and both ways were in view of whoever opened that door. One was a flight of stairs, and the other was a relatively long hallway. One of the people with us was in front of the door when it opened, and he was closest to the stairs. When that door opened, I heard a very loud thud, a click, and no noises after. Me and my other friend decided to hide in the room we had just opened, and stood just to the left of the door. I watched as an old man holding a handgun peeked into the door and stared directly at me. I stared back and didn't say anything, but shook my head to plead for my life, and then he closed the door and went back into his room. Seeing that opportunity, we decided to escape, and somehow the room we were in had a second door in the back, which we used. But we were not clear yet, as the main room was open and had a central walkway, making it impossible to visually sneak away. As we were making for an exit, we saw the old man come from out of the hallway, now holding a shotgun. Thanks to the old construction of the place, the steps were unpredictable and we made a lot of noise while still in sight, but he went the opposite way from us for some reason. We eventually made our way to the parking lot and met up with our other friend that we thought we had lost. We should have kept moving because we heard a bullet pass nearby after a gunshot. It sounded like a smaller caliber, probably a .22, but we ran, got in the car, and drove away. I should mention this building was in a city, so when we were at the parking lot, we were in a completely different property. I assumed this guy was just trying to scare us away. When recounting the story, especially now since it was over a year ago, it still makes my heart race and I get tunnel vision. I haven't done any more urbex since. Mom's New House by Then I Realized. My mom remarried about 2 years ago. My dad died when I was 12, so she had been widowed for over 10 years. And this new relationship was very whirlwind, with the two of them meeting, dating, and then getting married within 3 months. I didn't know much about the guy, but my mom was happy, so I just tried to be supportive. She moved into his house in upstate Virginia and invited my fiancé and I to spend a weekend in her new home, getting to know her new husband. Mom's new house was pretty isolated. It sat on a few hundred acres of lovely rolling hills and was very picturesque. I was nervous about getting to know this guy, but really trying to make the most of it. Over the course of our first day there, though, I felt more and more uneasy. I didn't think it was weird, just silly. My mom's new husband was being very welcoming and friendly. We were being made to feel very at home, yet I still couldn't shake this oppressive feeling. I finally chalked it up to me being more upset about my mom getting remarried than I was willing to admit to myself. We spent most of the day wandering around outside since I felt worse when I was indoors. That night, my fiancé and I showered together. When I turned my back to him, he stopped talking mid-sentence and asked, "What did you do to your back?" "Well, nothing. Why?" I said. "You've got a really large bruise on it," he said. I hopped out to try to see it in the mirror. I got back in and we finished showering in silence, and then it was off to bed. The one window in our room looked out over a pitch-black empty field, but I couldn't sleep until I hung something over the window. I had this distinct feeling that something or someone was watching us through the window. The next morning, I had a complete meltdown. I woke up and just couldn't stop crying. I told my fiancé we had to leave, and he tried to calm me down by telling me all the things I'd been telling myself. My feelings of anxiety were just a result of seeing my mom with someone else. The longer I spent with them, the easier it would become. But I just had to leave. It was only Saturday morning and we were supposed to stay until Monday, but I felt completely hysterical. I knew I was on the verge of a panic attack, and my only concrete thought was I had to stop crying long enough to make our excuses and then get the hell out of there. We did. As soon as we were on the road, it felt like a weight had been lifted off of me. I was even feeling embarrassed for my behavior, hoping I hadn't insulted my mom's husband by leaving so early. Then my fiancé broke the silence. "That bruise on your back, did you get a good look at it?" I had. It looked like someone had touched the middle of my back with fingers spread wide, with their hand at a tilt. I want to make it completely clear. No one had touched my back the previous day, especially hard enough to bruise me. Cut to 3 weeks later. My mom came to visit me. The entire time she was hounding me to come stay with her again, and after finally trying to change the subject for the 5th time, I leveled with her. Before I even finished telling her the story, her face was as white as a sheet. She told me she'd been feeling the same way in the house, that she hated it, that she wanted her and her husband to move as soon as possible. And the real kicker? Her new husband's previous wife had shot and killed herself right outside in that same field that our room window overlooked. Hey gang, thanks for listening to this episode. If you have a true scary story of any nature that you'd like me to narrate, email it to unclejosh.truescarystories@gmail.com. I read them all. If you're catching this on YouTube and you like what you heard and saw, why not give the video a thumbs up, share it with a friend, leave a comment. I'd love to know what you thought of the stories. It's all free and it all helps out with the algorithms, so I appreciate it. Follow me on social media, and if you'd like to take your support a step further, find a link to my Patreon page in the description and consider getting some Uncle Josh and Campfire Crew merchandise. A link to my TeePublic storefront is also in the description. Everyone, be excellent to each other, and until next time, be wary of things that go bump in the night. It could be anything: a ghost, a monster, or the guy next door.